welcome to Share Truth Apply Scripture. I'm Jordan Shambly, joined by Cedra Sarton, and we have in studio with us today a guest, Hannah Harrison from the American Family Association Journal. Nice to have you back on.
So if you actually listen to us, you've heard Hannah before, I hope. And if you haven't, that means you haven't listened to us enough. So go to engagemagazine.net, click on the little tab that says radio, scroll through, and listen. You know what? I was going to say scroll through and find episodes with Hannah because she's been on with us before. But I think it would help if you just listen to all of them.
Yeah,
yes.
Just every single
just
one.
Just all the podcasts.
Until you find me.
Until you find her.
You can just stop.
Yeah. But then you could also click on our YouTube channel there. Find us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, whatever way you prefer to connect. So.
Yeah. And guys, we've been talking about lately on this show, we've been talking about some heavy subjects.
Yeah.
That's just the nature of this year right now. I mean, we're halfway through this year, right?
Oh, yeah.
Does it feel like we are? And I say that as if, like, at the end of the year, like, everything will just disappear and we'll just go back to normal. That's not going to happen, by the way.
Yeah.
I mean, people are like, I'm looking forward to when this year is over. I'm like, I'm sorry. It's going to be like
Hate to break it to
next
you.
year, too. So,
Yeah.
brace yourselves. But we've been talking about a lot of things that require a lot of thought, a lot of prayer, a lot of scripture reading, a lot of what we try to encourage you to do on this program anyway. Today is no exception. I think
I feel like every time I'm on, I just get these topics that are super dark. And I'm just like, well.
You're like, hey guys, let's talk about something that's just like not happy at all. That's fine. We'll have to do another program with you where we talk about the joy of the Lord, maybe.
Yes.
Yeah.
Someday that'll happen.
Absolutely. But in recent months, I suppose, a lot of things have been coming to light in our culture. A lot of names have been revealed as people who are not of good character, people who honestly should be, held responsible for their actions in regards to things like human trafficking, the sexual exploitation of people who are underage, children. A lot of things that have just broken my heart, as they've come out, and really just made me want to I don't know, like, just take action, do something to help spread the word, whatever. So that's why we're talking about this today, the human trafficking problem. That's such a big issue in our nation and has been for a long time.
Yeah, and around the world.
Yes.
Really,
And the past couple days, my Facebook feed has just been flooded with people who seem to have all of a sudden become aware that there is
Which is very encouraging.
Which is very encouraging. Yes. And so in that, we kind of want to discuss, what do we know about human trafficking? What does that look like? And I think people will be surprised. Like, people have this idea of human trafficking, and it doesn't just take one form.
Yeah, and I think that human trafficking, when I first started, the Lord laid this topic on my heart about senior year of high school. But even then, when I started researching it, everyone around here, I guess, we're in Mississippi, but they thought, oh, no, that's something that happens in India. That's something that happens across the seas, yada, yada, yada. And I even thought that, too, for a really long time. But then the more and more that I began researching, trafficking is not just overseas. Trafficking is in Tupelo. Trafficking is in Walnut, Mississippi. It's in every city, state, town, anywhere where there's people, there is a potential for sexual exploitation or human trafficking. And unfortunately, that crime is growing. It's actually become the third largest crime in the world, and that's only behind drugs. And trafficking looks different than most would imagine it to be. A lot of people have this stereotype, kind of kidnapping a man in a white van waiting in the Walmart parking lot to come and snatch your kids.
Which no doubt is something
bad
that does
things
take
happen.
place.
Yes. But especially in a lot of the human trafficking cases, you're gonna see pimps, traffickers. They're not stupid.
Right.
This is a relationship that is built where they seek out a child or an adult. A lot of children. That's kind of what I'm going to focus on today. But the average age for a child victim is between 14 and 18 years old. 14 to 16. I'm sorry. And it's even younger at times. That's just kind of our average that we go by. But yeah, I mean, and it's not anything that's, trafficking doesn't discriminate. It doesn't matter your ethnicity, what class you're in, your age. I mean, it's all across the board, because it just is.
Yeah. And how many times have we seen like a missing persons poster? And a lot of these people didn't just fall off the face of the earth. And it's not always a stranger that picks them up.
No.
It's that person that moved in down the street, or and that's been coming over to the barbecues, or that you've seen around and you wave at.
Right.
It could be anything. It could be family.
Right. And
You just
that, and I've noticed too, especially kind of in our area, when drugs are an issue,
yeah.
a lot of the times people will do or sell whatever they can to get that next high. And unfortunately, I mean, some parents do sell their children to get that.
Goodness.
So
you could have a child potentially that is not missing.
no.
They're in their home, but they're constantly being pimped out, basically, and prostituted in order to get that money for drugs or whatever else.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that is another form of trafficking.
Oh,
It
yeah.
is. It's, and I've heard this quote. I don't even remember where I heard it. But kind of talking about the effects of it, and trafficking is a lot of drug dealers. They're gonna sell their drug or whatever, but it's one sale. That's it. A trafficker is gonna sell the body, without trying to be super graphic, multiple times a day. And so it's just a continual flow of profit.
Right.
Yeah.
I
think, and also something that has come to light is different websites that are up that I don't believe should be up. Some of the worst hatred I've ever gotten online. Yeah. Some of the, and we're talking about pornography
Yes.
here. And some that try to do things that people do not deem pornography, but I would. They're like, well, they're not actually doing this or doing that, so it's not. It is.
It is.
It is. Yeah, and it's graphic content either way. So there are instances of websites who they're trying to seem like wholesome and trying to like connect with people, but then there's all these stories coming out of them having published people's rape videos or people's trafficked victims' videos and not wanting to take them down.
Right.
These people are being held against their will.
Young girls,
Right.
too.
Yes,
like
underage
16.
girls or younger.
Yeah.
And so you have things like that, and people are making money. So it's not until they're extremely threatened and they know they're going to get in trouble that they'll actually take them down.
Right.
Right.
So that just shows the moral construct that we're seeing here. Like,
Yeah, something that I've wondered before in this, I guess, this crime, this crime industry, I suppose it is, the people who are being trafficked. Would you say most of them are being coerced, or some of them are just being fooled into, oh, this is a lifestyle that you can live, kind of thing?
I would say they're being manipulated and, kind of coerced into that, because and a lot of the times when traffickers start that luring or grooming process, it's innocent, it's, oh, hey, and they prey on the vulnerable kids / women even. But it's a conversation on Instagram or Snapchat or Facebook, which is probably
we've discussed that before on this program.
I was about to say it's a whole nother topic
about giving your children access to such free access to the internet,
because
how dangerous it can be.
like I said, traffickers aren't stupid, predators aren't stupid. They know where your kids are.
Yeah, your young underage daughter gets a friend request from some boy, and oh my goodness, he is so cute, and he's talking to me, and really that person is a group of people. Using a fake account, using someone else's photos and a fake name, and they're talking to your child, and one day your child agrees to go meet them. Yeah.
And they think they're another 14-year-old girl that wants to go shopping at the mall.
Yeah.
And not to mention the amount of content that's out there on social media now of young children, I would call them teenagers, putting out material that is not that our culture would not deem necessarily sexually inappropriate, but totally
it's
is
very hypersexualized.
There's this normalcy of that kind of thing out there. So it's just an environment where these things can so easily happen.
Yeah.
So easily happen. So yeah, definitely. I mean, I know it is a completely different topic, but it is very, very much connected. And I just want to encourage every parent out there whose children is they're asking for a smartphone, they're asking to get on Instagram, all this stuff. Just say no.
TikTok.
Just honestly, just say no. There's nothing good that can come of that.
So I see that you've actually provided us with some notes, and I really appreciate that. You provided us with these numbers from a 2014 study on traffickers. So if that's 2014 and we're looking 6 years, and this is something that's
it's growing,
continually getting
not
worse.
shrinking. Yeah.
So where are we at in 6 years? How much is that? These numbers grown? So why don't you tell us a little bit about these?
Okay,
numbers?
so actually, I have this blog. This came from a blog I wrote. It's on Engage.
Yeah.
It's entitled "Slavery Still Exists." If y'all want to go and just read a little
I'll
more
put a
about
link
it.
in the show notes to
Yeah.
that one.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I found this, and it was really interesting to me. Granted, it is a 2014 study, like Cedra said, but the Urban Institute went in, and they were kind of looking at the nature of trafficking and the economy, all of that, in 8 different cities. And the study provided that depending on which city they were in, the generated revenue could range from $39.9 million to $290 million. And it also highlighted how pimps can earn an average of $32,833 per week in these big cities, which is insane to me.
Yeah.
Like, they're selling women, children, and boys too, or even in the trafficking problem. But they're selling these people and for sex mostly. I mean, it's just insane to me.
Yeah, it's crazy too, because we can talk about how much the people who are who are driving that, how much they're involved and how much we need to go after them, and how much that's the problem. When if they're making that much money a week in those big cities, how many customers are they having? Like, it's the customers that are kind of bugging me right now.
Oh yes,
Yeah.
Jordan. Like, it's a whole thing. Yeah, but and these customers aren't just, it's not just bad people. I want to make that clear. Their buyers are doctors and dentists, and I'm not saying all of them are this way, but these are powerful people that are participating.
People that you see and you trust.
Right.
Yeah, and you don't see them because they don't look like the mold of a bad person.
A creep, like we talked about that Walmart guy in a shady van. It's not a shady looking person.
And I've had an instance where I've been watching over a young cousin. She was only like 2.5, 3 at the time, pushing her in the buggy, and while her mom was going to get something else. I'm grown, so she trusted that I could handle that scenario. And I noticed that there was a guy around every corner, but he wasn't shopping. He wasn't buying anything. And he kept looking a lot at the little girl that I had. And that's, eventually, and it's one of those things, like, you don't want to accuse someone wrongly of something like that. That's a big deal. So I just tried to go from aisle to aisle, do my shopping, until one point we'd been down 10 different aisles, and he was always there nearby, getting closer and closer, till I turned around and I said, do you want to have a problem here? Do you want to have a problem here? And this guy was like, ooh, and left. And I went and reported him to the people, just in case. So that some people, of course, he may not have been able to do anything.
But I think the important thing in that situation is that you were aware.
Yeah.
I think parents, older siblings, cousins, whatever, if you've got a young child with you, you need to be aware of your surroundings.
Right. Yeah.
And so I think going into the next part, so as Christians, because that's what the show is all about, whatever we talk about as Christians, what should we be doing?
I would say the most important thing is to become educated.
Yeah.
So many people, like we mentioned earlier, even I, thought this was a across the seas issue. It's not.
Yeah.
And there are different signals, there are different signs that these victims are going to show. But even then, it's hard to kind of tell. But if you are educated and you do know what to look for, one, that's fabulous. But even if you're not in that situation where you've come in contact with a victim, and I'm sure we all have at some point, but you can spread proper awareness, the truth. There's so many, and I think trafficking, there's a lot of misconceptions about it. And those are super easy to be shared on Facebook or Twitter or whatever.
Yeah, we see it all the time. People see a post and they're like, oh, that's awful, and they share it. I've been seeing in the flood of all of these trafficking posts this week, I've seen a lot of those as well. A lot of conspiracy theories.
Yes, there's a lot of conspiracy.
Yeah, there's a good and a bad way. Yeah. That is on the bad side of that.
Right.
When you see a post and it seems this is wild, I can't believe they're doing that. Well, somebody somewhere could have just made something up.
Right.
And I have seen a post by a particular woman who tries to spread awareness because she's actually a trafficking victim. And her statement was, quit spreading misinformation.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're hurting.
Absolutely. And not only that, I mean, you're hurting the victims that are obviously in the industry, but you're also hurting these anti-trafficking organizations who are fighting to share the truth.
Yes.
And then they have to go and they have to spend their resources and their time covering up and going back and saying, no, bruh, this isn't how this works.
Right.
So
that's a great point too, because it can be so easy to, and just in the heat of the moment, just like this thing, big exposure and all this stuff, but don't get swept away by that. Always look, dig a little deeper and see what's backing something up. Yeah,
exactly.
Get educated.
Yeah.
Get educated.
Get
Absolutely.
educated.
My plug.
And also, I just want to go ahead and go into what are some signs that we can look for?
I think that the biggest indicator is going to be that you have either a child or somebody who is obviously being controlled by somebody.
Yeah.
They don't have access to money. They probably don't have a driver's license, nothing. And they say, like, you're in a gas station, for an example, and maybe there's a girl kind of getting her a snack or whatever. Well, over here in the corner, there may be a man, even a woman. At times, it's not always just men traffickers, but kind of watching her every move.
Yeah.
And maybe when she goes to pay, he's the one that takes her to pay for her goods. And, she doesn't have any control. And I've heard, even if you were to go kind of talk to this girl, that person is going to be like an eagle, like a hawk. It's just going to be like, no, bruh, and then kind of maybe come and break up the situation. But they don't have any freedom. And, human trafficking is often kind of, we use the word slavery, because that's what it is. These women are trapped. They don't have the opportunity to just leave whenever they want to, which is another misconception. A lot of people think, well, why don't you just get up and leave? It's because it doesn't work that way.
Yeah. Because there's somebody always watching them. They
always
have no
watching.
independence.
No independence.
Yeah.
It's
Wow.
It's modern day slavery. But these people who are victims usually will not be alone. Period. Like I said, they'll be watching, but they're always going to be either in a group of people or all of that, transported by different people. They're also going to be really withdrawn because, like I said, when somebody's staring at you, watching your every word, you're not going to have the ability just to pick up a conversation with Cedra or Jordan or anybody. And so they're going to kind of be kept to themselves and fear. I mean, you've seen somebody afraid before. You can kind of tell just their body, their movements, that they're afraid to say anything or do anything.
Yeah. And if there are people in certain circumstances, my mom's a teacher. She's with kids every day. Watch for the signs in the children.
And I will say, there are several sites that I've listed. Shared Hope International, Nicosi, Polaris is a really good one. International Justice Mission, Thorn. These are just a few that you can go and actually get a pretty comprehensive list of signs. There's several.
Yeah.
And I think teachers, doctors, these people have such an important play in our society, and especially when it comes to combating trafficking, because they're in those rooms. They see them every day.
Yeah.
We may see somebody in a gas station and be like, oh, kind of suspicious, but I don't really know.
Yeah.
But when you're watching these children either not show up or be really distant or whatever the case may be, you have the signs. And if you know them, then there are different measures you can take. You can contact local authority, or and Polaris also has the National Trafficking Hotline where you can either text or call. And that's on their website. But they check up on every call that they receive. for a potential trafficking victim.
Yeah. And again, like I said earlier, this is something, it's a huge deal to accuse someone of something like this. I get that. And you do not want to accuse someone wrongly of this sort of crime. But I would say, go look at the signs. Don't just glance over the signs. Memorize them. Memorize the list.
Yeah.
And you're going to notice if something's off. If there's a kid who is next door to you, or even the wife, or if something is wrong, you'll start seeing more and more of these signs. And the more you know, the more you can help.
Exactly.
So
Absolutely.
I like that. In big letters, in all caps, you got be educated.
Yeah, be educated.
I think that's good.
Yeah.
And thank you so much for listing those. So if you... I'd say I would encourage people who are listening to go check out those websites. And I say that because I know that you have reviewed all of them.
Right.
So I know that they're good, trusted sources.
Absolutely. And I again, like, be educated, but also be aware, like, have your eyes open. I think not just to maybe if someone around you is in this kind of situation, but just be aware of where these little connectors come from, of like what else is connected to this thing. So in the case of social media, if you see some things going on social media, you can report inappropriate behavior. You can keep your children off of social media, which is extremely encouraged. You should
very much so
not let them on social media at all, because these are the kind of places where this happens. It doesn't happen as often, and you're walking in the park and somebody snatches you.
Right.
This happens, like you've said, it's a grooming process. It's something that somebody strikes up a relationship with you, starts messaging you or whatever, and there's a friendship, whatever, that's established, and that's how
it opens the door.
Opens.
I will go ahead and say, even though I'm not a parent, so a lot of people come at me like, how would you know you're not a parent?
Same. It's fun.
block the haters. Anyways, block the haters.
Jordan's got us.
But I think you would agree that your kids having friends means you should know about the friends.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Your kids should not have friends that are their special friends that you have nothing to do with.
Especially friends who are older than them.
Yes.
Nope.
Yeah.
I was at a conference and one of the ladies was talking about trafficking, and she was like, your friend should not follow, accept friend requests from anybody that you don't know in person as the parent, which is kind of wild to me, because I was like, what? No, like, I have friends my mom and dad don't know personally, but it's such a good point, because if you don't know them in real life, how do you know that they're real?
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah.
So, and I remember, like, whenever we first started getting Facebook and stuff, we still didn't know. This is back in the day.
We had to learn.
We had to learn. And so, like, our parents didn't really know. Like, my mom, I'm the one that helped my mom set up her social media because she didn't really use it. And so, like, she uses it all the time now, but, like, all the time, like, sharing. That's okay. But
For plus 2 hours, it's fun.
Yeah, so we didn't know. Well, we know now. There's no excuses. You know now.
Exactly. And I think a lot of parents know now too, and I think I'm really thankful that this is coming out on social media, because people are taking more precautions, or at least I hope they are.
Yeah.
So,
and please don't come at me about my child's privacy.
Oh, that's a whole nother topic too.
What?
I will say there is a time, especially in the teenage years, where knock on the door before you go in their room, kind of thing. Like, don't let them live in a goldfish bowl. Like, they're at some point in time that you need to treat them as an adult. But when they're 5, probably not.
No, teach them to learn to know how to be independent later in life.
Yeah.
But there's still precautions you need to be taking. So that means your friends shouldn't be going over for spend the night parties at a friend's house when you don't know the parents, you don't know,
or the siblings, even you don't know what kind of friends they're gonna have in the house.
Yeah.
So, anyways, that's all I'll say on that.
It's it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this topic goes into a whole lot of things. It goes into parenting. It goes into what do you spend your time doing? It goes into law. It goes into everything.
We just need to have a series. It's fine.
Oh, it absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, but there's a lot of things that I am glad that this is coming out more as a something that people are noticing, because I mean, there's just so many things this year, especially that has just it demands our attention, and things that I think are not necessarily distractions because there is not one issue that's just so much more important than every other issue in the world because of course there's so many things happening right now that we need to have a biblical opinion on and to be able to speak to and be educated about. But this is one of them, and I think it does merit taking some time to have conversations about it with your kids if they're at an appropriate age. Go ahead and tell them the honest truth about what's going on in the world, so that maybe they have less of a desire to be put in the way of this thing.
Yeah.
And so they can also take part in
And if we
preventing
start
it.
getting hate mail from people's teenagers and kids, my mom put a parental control on my phone because of your show, I'm just going to be like, yes.
I got a list of parental controls too. If you want it.
Oh yeah, you can absolutely. Yeah, if you're talking about like, well, my teenager needs a phone because they're driving. I'm like, well, you can make it to where they have a smartphone,
Yeah.
but that can't get on the internet.
Or
Like
if
you
it's-
can do that.
If it's just for driving, you can get them a flip phone. Like,
Yeah, absolutely.
So they
I
don't
mean,
have internet access.
Yeah.
If we want to
oh
be
my
real mean to
goodness.
these poor kids.
Yeah, that would be yeah. No, I remember having a flip phone myself,
I
so
did too.
I had that one for many years. So, but yeah, so I guess what I hope that our audience leaves this program with today is some information that they can use, a bit more of awareness. We'll put a lot of the links to these sites and these resources in the show notes. So if you want to check those out, engagemagazine.net. Hit the radio button, and there's our show, and you can see our show notes there. So yeah, thank you, Hannah, for joining us today. And we're going to have you again on another episode. We'll talk about
I'll be
something
back.
very happy.
And be sure to check out the AFA
Absolutely.
Journal if you want to see
Yes.
other articles that she's written that we don't have on Engage. Please do.
Absolutely. And until next week, continue to share truth and apply scripture.